All right, so hello everybody and welcome to the Bright Founders Talk at Temi. Temi is an international software development company that designs, builds and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. So my name is Matthew and I have the pleasure today of speaking with David and Sam, who are co-founders of a company called Evidencity. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. If I can ask you both, David, if we can start with you, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having us. So I've been an entrepreneur for about 20 plus years, but interesting story. I fell backwards into the business assurance space, business assurance being things like security, investigations, compliance, and fell backwards into that after 9/11. And I've been working in that space now for about 20 years. Sam was someone that I knew in the space, knew for over a decade, had a lot of mutual respect, enjoyed working together separately, yet coming together and collaborating. And Sam and I, in about 2018, I was so impressed with what he had done at Evidencity and how he built Evidencity that I just offered up to him that I thought we should go into business together. We've been working on this company now for a little over 5 years.
Just thanks for the invite. Happy to be here. Happy to be here with you and David. Myself, briefly, I come out of the investigative journalism practice, and for many years was an investigative journalist on the ground in Latin America, looking into the networks of criminal actors out there who make a business and oftentimes exist within and on top of legal business practices and financial systems. And so Evidencity was born out of that understanding and analytical framework.
Fantastic. So it sounds like a serendipitous meeting. Now, tell me, David, what inspired you? You said you realized that Sam was doing good work with Evidencity. How did you initiate this initial startup?
Well, actually, what I had seen of Sam being on the outside looking in, I had seen that he had another company, a boutique due diligence firm focused on Latin America. He had this other company, but he had identified a problem within that company. He had worked to solve that problem within the other firm, but then he had realized that the solution to that problem was in fact its own business model or its own company. And so after having incubated the prototype and the solution within the old firm, he had then rolled it out to the marketplace and spun it out as its own company, which ultimately was Evidencity. And I just had so much admiration for what he had done there. I really respected it. And our conversations around that began with me just trying to understand what he had done. And we would have these, great conversations as I'd be, picking his brain and trying to understand, like, well, why'd you do that? Or how'd you think of that? Or, well, how did you overcome this problem or that problem? And after, probably half a dozen of those conversations over the course of a year, I just sat down with him and said, you know what, look, I've been here picking your brain, trying to figure out if there's a way in which I can do what you did. But after a year of doing that, I just rather go into business with you. And there was no reason for me to say anything like that. And there was no reason for him to be receptive. But my friend Sam, who's an amazing person, instead of laughing me like out of that conversation, he said, well, that's an interesting thing to say, like, tell me more. And that started a conversation that ultimately led to our partnership and coming together to actually go out and raise capital from the VC markets together.
I like that. That's really cool. Sam, do you want to tell us a little bit about Evidencity and what it means?
Yes, sure. So when we were bouncing around the name of this concept that David's referring to, was on a road trip with family in Portugal. My wife's side of the family lives in Portugal, is Portuguese, and so it was this kind of funny Portuguese English conversation, and we were batting around this idea of evidence, the word evidence, and the reference to access to data that has not yet received any level of analysis. So it's almost like raw data. Raw data for individuals would be like a birth certificate. Like there's no analysis on it. It's just the facts. Raw data for a company would be like the corporate registry and tax ID number. And so it's kind of bouncing around this idea, and then also bouncing around the idea that we wanted to build out a global network of local researchers who were at the city level. And so as we were sort of batting it back and forth, you have these concepts of evidence and city that come together in Evidencity. And so it was actually my brother-in-law, who's not a native English speaker, who said, well, why not Evidencity? And we're all like, that's it, that's it. Yeah. So building off of the name and leaning into, and leaning into, what it means to collect evidence at a city level is really, at the core of what we do. Even today, it's stayed true to that concept.
Terrific. So thank goodness for your brother-in-law there. It's a really catchy name, as we spoke about beforehand. So you've met David, you're inspired. Sam, you've got this thing going. And now you're together and you decide to start moving forward with this. Can you tell us about some of the challenges, learning to work together, getting your idea off the ground, or maybe even a little bit, you did mention earlier about finding funding. Can you tell us about some of the challenges you may have experienced?
Yeah. So, raising capital, which I know Sam's done before. I've done many times before. You wind up hearing a lot of no's, except it's not. You can accept the no's. It's more the slow no, or the maybe, or the we'll come back again in 3 months, which really is, those maybes and the come back in 3 months. They're really no's, and you really need to identify them as such. But we had lots of stories, lots of meetings, lots of people that poked holes in the business model or the idea, or the is this really. Is collecting information out of challenging jurisdictions really through local researchers really the way to go? Because isn't everything digital now? Isn't everything becoming digital now? Why would we want to invest in something in a market that's probably going to go away in 5 to 10 years? And kind of having those hard conversations with people that just really didn't get what we were doing or how we see this going on for decades. Even in the United States, a developed country like the United States, where certain types of information is still not digitized in civil courts or at the state or municipal or local level, where that information, maybe they want it to be digitized, but they don't have the funding to do it right now, or the funding gets pulled left and right. We have to pay our police department and our fire department, so we'll digitize those records next year. And that can is just kicked down the road again and again and again. And so it's hard raising capital. It's hard hearing all those no's, or again the slow no. But we stuck at it. We got invited into an accelerator program that we went through together, which was a great partnership experience and learning experience. And we just, like the entrepreneurs that we are, we just remain optimistic in the face of constant rejection until finally you're able to get your vision and your ideas and turn them into reality.
Talking about the business model and talking about turning your ideas into reality, you did mention technology and things that are available now. It's these things change at a rapid pace. How do you guys identify new technologies, IT solutions, to stay current and to stay relevant in such a fast-changing market?
It is a fast-changing market, Matt. I mean, if you just look back at the sort of the democratization, if you will, of generative AI with ChatGPT and how that hit the market and everyone's response to that. One of the things that David and I often come back around in terms of looking at new technology that's out there is understanding very clearly, at least as much as possible, understanding the difference between all of the hype around the technology and actually what is the part of that technology that is real, is true. A metaphor that I like to use is more of maybe of a Western or of an American metaphor is a latte with whipped cream on top. And so what you're really after is the black coffee, but the milk and the whipped cream and the sugar and all the rest of it is hype, right? You just want the black coffee. We use an analytical framework for understanding sort of the difference between the hype and what's real. And then if we look at what's real and what's true today, another thing that we ask ourselves as partners is, well, what is true today versus what if or what could be true tomorrow? And so when we're making decisions on what technology to develop with our tech team or what technology to incorporate into our tech stack or broader, ecosystem of systems and suppliers and sources that we're using on the software side, we are always asking ourselves, what's true today versus what could be true tomorrow, and we're focused on what's true today. So that maybe gives you some ideas in terms of how to manage the fast-paced change that we're living in right now.
So something interesting that you brought up there, what's true today, obviously it's up to us, how we look at things and how we perceive things. But one thing that is important today is obviously having the right team around to help support what we believe is true for the day. So how do you go around, you two guys, you've got a great idea, you've gone through finding funding, you've built a relationship together, now you've got to bring other people into the circle. How do you find equilibrium there with who you bring in, and what do you look for?
That's a lot to try to take on. Well, first of all, realize that you're going to make a lot of mistakes. Hopefully you have a partnership or you have an executive team in where you understand what failure is and what mistakes are. We define failure at Evidencity as a unwillingness to learn, because we're all going to make mistakes. And in fact, in those failures and in those mistakes is when you have an opportunity to grow and learn and get better. But you can only do so if you're in a culture and environment where you truly believe that the only failure is an unwillingness to learn. So Sam and I often, we say a couple of things to each other, but it took us a while to get there. One of the things we say is that we're still working, and Evidencity is still working because we've made, one more right decision than wrong decision. So we have to be very, very honest with ourselves about the mistakes we've made and the failures that we've made. And then when we look to add a partner or a vendor or a contractor or an employee, we have to be true to that culture with every single individual that comes in and touches the company. Because especially in a startup and especially in a small group, if you're only 5 people sitting around the table and you have one person that's misaligned in terms of culture, that's a very large percentage. What one person misaligned in culture in a company of 500 isn't that big of a deal, but in a company of 5, it can be the difference between, making it or going bankrupt. So I'll stop there and see if Sam has something to say on this, because this is a big one and one we've worked on very, very hard.
Yeah, thanks, David. When we closed our Series A, and Matt, it's an exciting moment. Let's be real here, because you've gone through, as David mentioned earlier, like 100 no's or 99 no's to get to one yes, and then once you get the one yes, then everything changes. And so now you have a bank account full of cash. You're like, okay, what do I do with it? So I remember a phone call. I reached out to one of our investors and asked him, what would you do if you were in my shoes? And he said, well, Sam, understand you're running a marathon. You're not sprinting. So set a pace so you're always moving forward. Don't be in a hurry. And that was great advice. And because there's moments when David and I look back, and I can look at specific blocks of time when we were definitely in a hurry and we didn't need to be. We were creating this sort of false sense of like, go, 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 hire all these people. But then we're like, hold on a second. We don't have product market fit yet. We should actually focus on that first before we hire someone to sell it. So you have these moments when you realize, oh my gosh, yeah, I need to slow down. There is a power in patience that I think David and I have learned as partners. Self-awareness is huge. I think he and I have grown a lot in self-awareness, understanding how to cover one another's flanks, but then also understanding the best hires. Some of the best people on our team are designed, are hardwired completely differently than we are smarter than we are, and who have captured the vision that we are casting for them. And I'll land it here by saying that every business, Matt, has an operating system. If you don't know what that system is, then your system is chaos. And so if you're building a business on chaos, you're not going to go very far. Or if you do, it's going to be just through raw grit and determination and white knuckling it. But there's a better way to do it. And the better way is actually installing and then running an operating system that works for your business. Independent of whatever system you choose, there's a lot out there. We chose one and we've stuck with it. We made it our own. And as recently as today, we had a meeting with our whole team executing on that system and getting everybody pointed in the same direction and walking at pace together as a group. You can imagine, as easy as it sounds to say it, it's incredibly hard to actually do it.
Looking forward, do we have any big things in the pipeline for the future? Without giving away too many company secrets, what can you tell us? What's going on?
Yeah, I sit on more of the product side, so I'll start. But David, I'm sure there's a couple of highlights that you can underscore when I've finished. Matt, for me, the most exciting thing that we're looking at, it draws a really fine point on how does Evidencity execute in the best way possible on the hybrid constitution that we have as a business. So on one hand, we have this whole group of wonderful people all over the world who have been recruited, trained, onboarded, and are fantastic researchers. Their English is very strong, and they also speak at least one other language, usually two or three. And so we have that massive research capability on one side, and then we have a very clear understanding of how to organize and manage structured data in a way that develops insight and understanding for our clients. And so when you bring those two together in sort of hybrid way, we have a wonderful opportunity to build unique data sets. In other words, we have a unique way to take unstructured data that one may find in open source, whether it be media or blogs or whatever, and then structure that in a way so that now sits in a spreadsheet and it can be visualized and manipulated and built upon and leveraged by our software ultimately to drive meaning and insight for our customers. And so that's something that we've been working on for 18 months. And it's something, as of Q1 of this year and going into Q2, April, May, June of 2024, that we're finally able to bring to market in a way that I think is innovative and powerful and exciting. It's exciting to tell a story with the data. And people have been doing it for a long time, but it's more exciting to tell a story with data that doesn't exist anywhere else.
I was just going to add, we're about actually to put out a press release next week about a new product line that we're very excited about, but the ability to really poke in and understand around global supply chain transparency. So when you think about the global economy, very hugely vast, large, very hard for any one company to truly understand their entire supply chain network down to the third or fourth or fifth level of that analysis. As you move farther away from maybe a globally known brand, all the way down, as we like to say, all the way down to the dirt, right? So, and so this product really allows our clients to take a spotlight and shine that light into the dark recesses of the global economy, where really bad and evil things are happening, right? Money laundering, human trafficking, organized crime, syndicates. And so we're really, really excited about launching that product here in April.
That's terrific. And we saw as well how fragile it can be recently, with some of the tensions that are going on and how it's affected people's ability to send and receive things globally. And there's a lot going on. So it'll be a terrific thing to simplify that for everyone. So gentlemen, I'm going to ask you both, there's so much to cover. You're both extremely interesting, and I think your story is great. We could do this forever, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you if you could each maybe tell me something that I might have forgotten, something you think that is important for people to know. The show goes out to young entrepreneurs and business people around the world, and there's a wide target audience. So if there's anything you'd like to share with us.
I'll just share that there is there's a growing movement within the capital markets, be it venture capital or private equity, angel investing. And that is that, not just to find the next great business model or the next unicorn, right? Or the next potential IPO, but also to make impact with that capital while that capital is looking for a return on investment. And so for any young entrepreneurs out there that are looking to take their idea and their vision to market, don't think that you have to wait to make the money to actually make impact. That there's a growing movement over the past 20 odd years where investors are looking, is it possible to have both the for profit and the for purpose? And luckily Sam and I have an incredible cap table, individuals that are part of that movement, and they're looking for both the return on investment and the impact out in the community and in the world. So that's what I would share.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I'll share this. I think David would agree, and many of your listeners will probably agree that being an entrepreneur means that every day you have to manufacture a daily dose of irrational optimism. And I'll repeat that one more time: a daily dose of irrational optimism. Optimism because you can never lose hope. As an entrepreneur, you have to have a glass half full approach to everything, and it only becomes more of a it's not necessarily a burden, but it's a calling to have that hope as your team grows, because there's peaks, there's valleys. Sometimes you have to let go of people. Sometimes you lose contracts. There's wins, there's losses. You always have to have that hope. As the leader of the team, you're that coach. You got to bring the hope. The irrational part of daily dose of irrational optimism, the irrational part is you have to be able to see something that others can't see. So from the outside looking in, it seems like you're crazy. You're irrational. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about. But you can clearly see something that no one else can see. That's vision. And to be an entrepreneur, you have to have that vision. You have to have that hope plus the vision. And then you have to come up with a daily dose. Not too much, not too little, just enough to consume for the day, because you want to have just enough for the day to get through the day, and then do it again and again and again. And if a young man or a young woman looking to get into creating something that doesn't exist, because as entrepreneurs, that's what we do, you have to remain hopeful. You have to have vision, and you have to do it every day. And so I would land with that, Matt.
That's very inspirational. I like that. A daily dose of irrational optimism. I write these things down when I come across them, and that's very, very special. Gents, I just want to thank you on behalf of the team for taking the time out of your day today to meet with us. We will be keeping our eye on you, and I have followed you both on LinkedIn, so I can watch what's going on. And yeah, thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.